Rob Tubbett here for ID Boxing, and welcome to our new surroundings here today. I am joined by a very, very special guest. I thought I'd make the first guest in the new studio a good one. I'm joined by none other than Alex Krassyuk of K2 Promotions. Alex, always a pleasure to catch up with you. Thanks very much for being the guinea pig in our new lab. What do you think?
Amazing. I love it. It looks very Ukrainian. Doesn't it?
It does, yeah. We adjusted the light special for you.
Really grateful.
We weren't due to open for another couple of weeks, but seeing as you're in town, it's always good to catch up with you. So I thought there'd be nobody better than to welcome you into the studio. So thanks very much for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
How was your trip in London? Obviously here solely on leisure, so lots of drinking and lots of going to the football. And
Yeah, none of that. I'm here for business, unfortunately. It's always a pleasure for me to come to London, even for business. But when you are so focused on some things, some important things that need to be done, you just don't notice the surrounding, what's happening around. You just do your job.
You do indeed, and you've been very, very busy in the last few months. Seems that every time I speak to you, you're in the middle of one negotiation or another, or there's some sort of new development with the heavyweight division. Of course, Oleksandr Usyk being your client, who is, I say, a man in demand. I'm not quite sure if he is in demand at the minute. What can you tell us? What's the latest on Oleksandr Usyk?
Usyk is in a training camp for a long time already, so he doesn't care what's going on. He was intended to fight for the undisputed, the biggest fight of heavyweight division. He heard rumors that the fight might not take place. It made him upset a little bit, but not too much. So I was in his camp before I came here, actually, and he's doing good. I mean, he's training hard. He's working like 3 trainings per day. The camp is absolutely, I just don't know which word to use. It's not great. It's perfect. I mean, the gym, the place, the climate, everything is at place, and they're treated really cool. So I loved the surrounding. And regarding the fight itself, probably it's interesting to know, right? Ask me a question, Rob. Come on, ask me this question.
We'll get to it, of course. Just on Usyk, he's in good spirits. He doesn't seem to strike me as the type of person to weigh heavy with things on his mind. How is he holding up with all of this stuff? You said there he's sort of slightly upset. Is he eager to get back in the ring? What's the status?
Yeah, it's about motivation. I mean, if you have an incentive like that to fight for the undisputed, it makes you feel more energy inside. But he's a professional of the highest level, so whatever comes, he will have to comply with it, and it's normal for him. His mindset is like, whatever happens for the reason. So thank you, Lord, for giving me that. I'm grateful for what I have. This is the way he treats his life. He lives his life.
Last time you were over here, go back to before Christmas, December, for Tyson Fury versus Derek Chisora 3. Memorable night at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It seemed as though, in the build-up to that fight, that we just needed a Tyson Fury win, and then the undisputed fight would happen. We saw Tyson Fury, we saw Oleksandr Usyk, we saw Joe Joyce kind of appear from nowhere. Mm-hmm. But the general feeling was that the fight would be made. I spoke to you, and we heard 2 dates in February. We had an early date in March. Talk to me about what's happened. Go back to final bell, December the 3rd, I think it was. Mm-hmm. What's happened in the period of time since then with regards to negotiations? Give me a timeline if you can.
Remember what I told you. We have everyone on board. Queensbury is on. Top Rank is on. Team Usyk is on. Usyk himself is on. K2 Promotions is on. The only thing that was pending was Tyson's consent. And it's still pending. That's actually the reason why the fight is not happening yet. The timeline looks like we were expecting the fight to take place in Saudi in March or late February. It didn't take place though, so it was rescheduled for April 29th. Then Skill Challenge came up with a news that they will not be able to make it at the end of April. So we had the backup option with Queensberry, sorry, to put it on Wembley. And Wembley was booked, preliminary. So we started to negotiate the deal for Wembley, which did not finish yet, the negotiation. But it's very likely to finish very soon.
So as we stand now, the negotiations are still ongoing, but of course, I mean, we're in the second week of March now. April 29th is
It
6-7
doesn't
weeks
look
away.
likely that we're going to have a fight on April 29th. That's my anticipation. The term is too short, and did you see any posts of Tyson and his team somewhere on the social media? They are training, they are doing their jobs, they're moving somewhere. I think they are not in a training camp. It means that they just did not take the decision to fight. That's why we don't need to think really positive. I think we have to be realistic.
What changed? So a deal was done with the Saudis. As I understand it, those deals are negotiated separately between Skill Challenge and the fighters. What's changed from getting a deal done with the Saudis and now being apparently unable to get a deal done in London?
I can tell you only from the words that I hear from my negotiators, my partners, Frank and George Warren. According to their reports, Tyson Fury was asking for too much money. Even if Usyk would get zero for the fight, it would not be still not be sufficient for Tyson to cover his wants. That's actually the point. Normally, when a fighter doesn't want to fight, he asks for something impossible, and then it's not happening. That's according to my experience. I've been in boxing for a while, probably almost 20 years, and that's what I've seen so many times. When you're looking for an opponent for your fighter and you're finding a proper option, and he doesn't want to come, he says, okay, pay me, let's say, 100 instead of 5. Okay, thank you very much. So that's the way people used to do it in the business. So most likely he doesn't want to fight Usyk now. Maybe he's not ready himself. Maybe he has some troubles with his health, with mental state or whatever. I can't only guess. But the fact is that the negotiations didn't go well. No, the negotiation itself did go well, but the result was not positive.
So going back to kind of the Saudi versus London side of things, or Saudi versus Wembley side of things. So Usyk, to my knowledge and what's been reported, had a deal done with Saudi.
True.
Tyson, I'm not sure whether or not he had a deal done or not, but no. April 29th was unable to be delivered. So coming back over here, the number of 60-40 has been banded about, 60 to the winner, 40 to the loser of the fight. Is that accurate? Is that?
Yeah, that's what we offered him as the last option. If you are confident in fighting Usyk, not Usyk, but the middleweight rabbit, if just take the fight, 60 to 40 split, and the winner takes the bigger share. Absolutely fair. It's not normal for boxing, but it's a good incentive for fighters to go. No, I think even if you offer him 90 to 10, he would turn it down.
And why is that, in your opinion?
Maybe he wants to buy a soccer club. That's why he's looking for money.
On that deal, the 60-40 split to the winner, you mentioned there, it's not the custom in boxing to do that, particularly of a fight of that magnitude. Do you understand and do you accept people saying that Tyson is the bigger draw, he deserves the lion's share, regardless of who wins the fight? Do you accept that?
It's just talks. I mean, there's nothing serious about it, because if the fighter wants to become the undisputed, he takes what it is. I mean, the conditions are really fair. Whatever the fight makes, You split it. Okay, so you don't want to split it 50-50. Come up with your idea of how you want it to be. But we never received anything from Tyson. I mean, he never shared us the idea of how he wants it to be. He was only unhappy with what was offered to him. So that's that's not a constructive position, I would say.
If this fight doesn't take place, the undisputed title fight, I mean, I appreciate this is going to be a very difficult question to answer. Do you think Tyson Fury still boxes in April? Do you think he maybe sits out? What do you see him doing?
Listen, April 29th is just 8 weeks away. If you plan to fight in 8 weeks, you have to work so hard in your training camp already. Did you see any reports of him, his team? I did not. Most likely he's not training. It means that he's not likely to fight on April 29th. But that's only my guess. I mean, you ask me a question, I try to answer it.
Where does that leave Usyk? Of course, he has a kind of a laundry list now of mandatory challenges. It's part and parcel of being a unified champion. Something that this man here. His brother.
His brother, right.
His brother, forgot which Klitschko we had there. Has struggled with in the past, whereby you know, if you want to keep holding your belts, Oleksandr Usyk has made no secret of the fact that he wants to become undisputed champion. I asked you in December when Hrgović was being discussed as a potential opponent, would Usyk consider vacating a belt if he was ordered, and you did what you're doing now, which was kind of immediately bat that back and say no. So where does that put Oleksandr Usyk if the Fury fight, as it looks as though, doesn't happen? Where does that leave Usyk?
Yeah, he's stuck in a very narrow corridor, being the unified champion. So he has the list of mandatories to comply with. And if you want to retain your title, I mean, if you want to still be a champion, you have to. There is no other way avoiding it. I mean, you have to defend for the mandatory. So that's if Fury fight doesn't happen, which is not really likely to happen. I think Usyk will have to fight for the mandatory.
Before we move on to that, are there any other dates in play for Fury-Usyk, or is it April 29th or pretty much nothing?
We can put any date, but it will not change anything. I mean, this is not about the date. It's not about the money. It's about being brave enough to take a challenge. That's what it is.
Do you think, I mean, you mentioned that, and we've spoken in the past about it, the fact that Tyson boxed Wladimir Klitschko and Tyson boxed Deontay Wilder, and he's travelled, as he says, if the money's there, he'll fight. But you don't think that's the issue here? Could it not be a case of him, hearing a big number from the Saudis?
Yeah, but he's fighting at home. I mean, the offer was, it's always an advantage. So, okay, you are a big ticket seller. I wouldn't say he's a big pay-per-view seller. If you look through his last 7 fights, you don't find really big numbers there. But okay, he sold out the venue in Tottenham, December. Amazing, that's true. But what's of that? I mean, okay, this is very positive. But for the fight, you're generating the profit. But you receive the advantage of fighting at home. If Usyk would be between the two options to choose, like fighting at home for smaller money or fighting for bigger money somewhere else, he would definitely choose fighting at home. It's a completely different atmosphere, completely different energy. So, I don't know. It's only about money? No. It's about fear? No. It's about the compilation of those things? Maybe.
Usyk's career, I mean, you go right the way back to, obviously the amateurs, but sticking with the pros. He beat Marco Huck in Germany, Gravatsky in Poland, boxed Hunter in America, he boxed Bellew over here. He's boxed all of these guys away from home, yet he seemingly can't get the fight with Tyson. Do you feel like from your position, from Usyk's position, you've done everything that you can? Do you feel like you've kind of approached this fight the same way as you've approached those other fights, which of course have been made?
Almost everything. I mean, without mentioning sending some guys to Tyson and asking to do how they said in the movie The Godfather.
Make him an offer he can't refuse.
Exactly. But that's not the way we used to act. So actually, listen, we are living in a democratic world, so everyone has the right to decide. I'm not condemning him actually for what he does. It's his choice. He lives according to his vision, to the world, in the world he used to live. I mean, if he doesn't let, you know, the worst thing about all this, he's very famous and he's a big star, and he's so high only because of the fans. I mean, of the followers, of people who supported him, who were backing him in his fights, who ticked follow in Instagram. It means that the only reason he's so famous is because these people exist. And there is a point one day when you have to pay off to your fans. And if you don't do that, it's like you're gonna sink into oblivion. I mean, you don't respect your fans. You don't do the things that you have to do. I mean, they love you because you're a great fighter. You're a big entertainer. Okay, but what about sports? You're not a Hollywood star yet. At this point, you're still a fighter. You have to fight, and you have to prove that you are the best if you claim yourself to be the best. And fans, boxing fans throughout the world, want to see the biggest fight. They want to know who is the strongest heavyweight at this moment, and who is the first to become the undisputed in four belts era. So it's disrespectful to treat boxing fans like that. That's what I think.
You mentioned there about Tyson being this star and kind of, you know, pay-per-view star in America, or doing pay-per-views over in America. Do you think Usyk's, what he brings to the table from a commercial perspective, do you think that is underplayed? Do you think people maybe don't pay him the consideration that maybe he deserves in that regard?
Let's imagine we're having a fight. Tyson Fury is fighting Derek Chisora. We understand what's going on, right? Then Tyson Fury is fighting Derek Chisora for the world championship. Sounds different. Then imagine Tyson Fury is fighting Oleksandr Usyk for nothing. And Tyson Fury fighting Oleksandr Usyk for the undisputed championship. That's a great thing. That's a big thing. So what's Oleksandr Usyk contribution? He's the unified champion. He has 3 belts. That's his contribution. That's actually what makes this fight so big. It's not about Tyson Fury being famous. It's about what's at stake, what they are fighting for. That's why this fight can generate twice as much or 3 times more than any Tyson's fight he had before. And that's why it happens not because of Tyson. It happens because of Usyk, because he's contributing his achievements in sports to this fight. That's why it's so big. That's why it has to be 50-50. That was my initial intention. But we are flexible people. Anyway, we want this to take place. We want this fight. We had the same story with AJ. The first split was not really good enough. I mean, it was according to the split of WBO. But then we had the rematch clause, and the split was completely different. And that loyalty to boxing and absence of greediness from Usyk's side paid him off immediately in the next fight. So same might happen with this fight. So we were flexible to move, but It's disrespectful to treat a unified champion like this. That's what I mean.
That was a mandatory, but obviously had a rematch clause attached to it. One-way rematch clause, might add. Would this be a one-way rematch clause? Is it one fight that you're looking at? Is it two fights either way?
Fights.
Regardless of who wins?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's fair. And I never heard anything negative on this point from Tyson's side. So they were actually asking for it. When they ask for a rematch clause, when they consider money to fight, if that would be an easy fight like Chisora, would he hesitate? I don't think so. There's a risk. There's a huge risk for Tyson, and he knows this. No one could beat Usyk within last 10 years. Does he have a clue? Does he know how to do that? Maybe in his imagination, yes. But as soon as he steps into the ring, he will feel it in the reality, how it works. Does it work? What he was imagining. And if it doesn't work, then he's in trouble. And if he's in trouble, he's losing everything he likes to enjoy. Fame, glory, money, recognition, whatever. So that's a risky thing. And if you are risking that much, you have to compensate, to get the proper compensation. That's why he's probably asking for that amount of money. It's disrespectful to say that the champion is ducking. From my side, I will try to avoid these words, because he's the champion, he's the star, he's the lineal champion, whatever. But he's famous, and he performed really good. He's unusual for boxing. I mean, his style, his body, how he behaves. He's a big entertainer. We have to respect this. But professional boxing is not just entertainment. It's sports. It's based on sports. And if there's no sport inside, it will disappear shortly. We need to stay on the basis. And the basis is athleticism, the fighters, how hard they work, and how they achieve their goals. That's the point.
Final one on Tyson before we move on and talk about what potentially could lay ahead without him. Where does dealing with him compare to dealing with Anthony Joshua? You mentioned there about...
Nightmare.
Expand on that. How is it different? Obviously, we saw two fights in one instance, and we're yet to see the other fight. But
listen, with Eddie, we did some sort of job. We had 3 fights as the co-promoters. Then we had 2 fights for AJ. I mean, we had 5 fights together. I never had any trouble dealing with Matchroom. According to my experience, I need to give a big credit to Matchroom and to Eddie and to Frank, because I enjoy watching how they work. It's like a mechanism. It's working, it's rolling, and it looks Swiss mechanism, like a Swiss watch. I like it. The negotiations never last that long, because whether we can do it, we do it. It's transparent, it's open. If we accept it, then we accept it. If we're not, then we're not doing it. It's very easy. We are not wasting each other's time. It's proper treating each other. So with AJ, it wasn't really complicated. As soon as the regulation, the arbitration decision for Wilder appeared, Eddie immediately texted me, we have a fight to make, let's start. So we started, we discussed, we found the solution, and we went to go. So it was very easy, no stress.
So what next for Usyk if it's not Tyson Fury? We mentioned those mandatory challengers. The WBA is the next in line, held by a certain Daniel Dubois, who is, of course, promoted by Queensberry Promotions, Frank and George Warren, who I know you've been to see since you've been over here. I'm sure, as well as trying to get that big fight with Tyson Fury done and signed off, which we're all hoping still, against hope it seems, that it's going to happen. There's been a conversation, should we say, around Usyk versus Dubois potentially.
Yep. This is actually the next step for Usyk. So, what can I say? We have to comply with it. It's probably not the worst fight for the UK. Dubois is English. Usyk fought a couple times here, so he's probably a bit known in the UK. And come on, this is a fight where an Englishman is fighting for 3 belts in heavyweights. It's a bit more than just a normal heavyweight fight, right? That's because Tyson and AJ and Usyk, Tyson, all this stuff occurred. That's why it doesn't look that big, because we have something to compare with. But on the other hand, it's still huge. I mean, it's a world title fight for 3 major belts between the Ukrainian, the former undisputed cruiserweight champion, the Olympic champion of London 2012, and Dubois, who is the Englishman, who is the contender, who went through some hell in the last fight. So probably he recovered. We expect that he did, but we have to see the medicals. And it's still an attraction.
You mentioned there about Daniel Dubois' last fight, which of course was on that night in December against Kevin Lerena. Very difficult night's work for Daniel Dubois. Knocked down in the first round by Kevin Lerena. By all accounts, obviously we've seen the reports about his medical status since then. A knee injury suffered on the night. Where is he? I'm sure that's come up with regards to a timeline for that potential fight happening. Is Dubois available? If so, when? And does that fit in with your timeline?
It's something to be disclosed within the next couple of days. I mean, we are still expecting the official decision on Fury. Once we move on from Fury officially, the fight is off, then we start working on the mandatory. So that's going to be the end. It's fair to answer this way because we have not collected the information yet. I mean, enough information, sufficient information.
That's understandable. If, for whatever reason, Daniel Dubois isn't available, Filip Hrgović is the IBF mandatory. Would Hrgović be next, or would it go down the WBA? How would it work in that instance?
I think WBA cannot go down because the number 1 position is vacant. So for them to go down, it makes things really complicated because Daniel Dubois is the champion, is the regular champion, and how can you? There are no regulations for the situation when the regular champion is due to mandatory and he's injured. What should be next? There is no regulation for that stuff. So as long as Usyk is the one holder of all the belts, I think there might be an option, for example, to swap with the IBF or WBO, probably with the IBF. But it's still an issue to be under discussion.
Which of those fights is the more difficult fight for Usyk, in your opinion?
I think more or less the same.
How would you rate either one of them? What are the good points, the bad points, the pros and the cons for Dubois and Hrgović?
Well, both guys will get a proper experience. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean, but I want you to tell everybody else what you mean.
Proper experience means when you're fighting the former undisputed cruiserweight and the unified champion of the world, a southpaw with absolutely magic footwork. That's what I mean, getting experience. When you get punched from the place you don't expect to get punched, that's an experience. When you feel that is only let's say 2-3 rounds to go, when you feel exhausted and you think it's only 2-3 and but it's only 2-3 finished and you still have the whole distance to go. I mean, it's about conditioning. It's about, come on, you know better than I do, and you talk to people more often than I do. Try to explain. What can I say?
Having spoke to you in the past and seen Usyk give a couple of interviews as well, sort of here and there, I can't imagine, as much as he's, from my conversations with you, my very limited time around him, I don't imagine him being, somebody who gets very upset by these things and starts throwing things off it. But I can also not imagine him going from, undisputed heavyweight title, $100 million or 50, whatever, to mandatory challenger against a Daniel Dubois or a Filip Hrgović. I can see there is a gap between that.
There is a huge gap between
which is not ideal for him, particularly at this stage of his career. And, we've spoke about it in the past. The interview he did where he talked about he wants Fury, he wants Wilder, and then I don't know how serious he said Canelo, and then away. So Hrgović, Dubois, other names don't seem to be the stimulus that he may want.
He will take it as the temporary discomfort on the way to the undisputed. Like something additional, kind of challenge you have to go through to get to the point you're aiming to. It's still the same preparation, it's still the same time, it's still the same training camp, same efforts. You spend your time, the biggest asset you've got. But if you are so focused on your dream and on your plan, on your goal, it's just like it's temporary.
Very interesting. Where does Deontay Wilder fit in, if at all? I know we spoke about him. He spoke about wanting to fight Usyk. But that's still a fight I'd really like to see. But obviously there are certain obstacles in the way, mandatories, undisputed fights, and what have you. Is he still part of the plan?
Sorry. He's rated pretty high in most of the sanctioning bodies. So probably very soon we're gonna hear some news that he's fighting for the mandatory position. Which sanctioning body? WBC?
He's been ordered, hasn't he, for Andy Ruiz, but
Correct.
We're still not sure.
Correct. And Andy Ruiz was supposed to fight Filip Hrgović in May, and he pulled out for some reason. What was the reason? I have no idea. But this fight is not announced yet and might not take place at all. They might be fighting for something else. I don't know. I'm not managing it. You'll have to ask Shelly Finkel. He's taking care of the guy. But this fight is potentially really interesting.
Do you think that we could see, is there any potential, do you think that we could see Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 4? They were all out in Saudi together. There's been a few murmurs around that. Do you think that that's a possibility?
Could you ever imagine the possibility of watching Tommy Fury fighting Jake Paul for that amount of money on such a big scale?
No.
Same with me. So anything may happen in Saudi. Saudi is like a world of magics. Sometimes very unexpected things happen in the way you would never expect them to happen.
You didn't fancy the trip out to Saudi for Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury?
What you mean?
You didn't fancy going out there, going with Usyk doing a Shannon Briggs for Tyson Fury? Let's go, champ.
No. We are working hard. We need to fix all the small details. Usyk is working hard since December in his training camp. I mean, he's a true professional. He treats it really, really serious. So he's under very strict discipline. 3 trainings per day, all sorts of sports trainings. So there's no space for vacation, for traveling, for sudden, hanging out.
Will he, assuming the 29th of April doesn't happen, will he box soon after then? Maybe if he's been in camp since December?
I have to deliver something to him. That's why I'm here. So we need sort of mandatory fight, which has to be announced really soon. But we need also to learn some details about the mandatory challengers themselves. So, but I think we may complete the issue within the next several days, hopefully.
Maybe, hopefully, several days. It doesn't seem like...
You're in boxing.
Of course. But if in a week's time Tyson Fury wakes up out of his bed and he says 60-40 to me, take it or leave it, you say,
bye-bye, Tyson. All the best. Enjoy your belly.
and you look at it later in the year?
Maybe. But it's like Tyson Fury, how could he wake up and say that this is impossible? It might be a nightmare for him, like waking up at night, seeing the nightmare, sweating, 60-40 with Usyk. No way. I don't think it might happen.
Okay. Right, before I let you go, always keen to pick your brain on somebody that you know very well at this point, Anthony Joshua, of course, the man who Oleksandr Usyk won his unified titles from, returns on April the 1st against Jermaine Franklin. Good comeback opponent for him at this stage of his career?
I can't answer you this question because I've never watched any of his fights. I can't even say how good he is. I mean, I never followed his neither amateur nor professional career. Once I look at his name was not very often mentioned. But does he need anyone else? It's a comeback fight. He needs to feel the ring. He needs to feel the punch, to feel the anxiety of what's of the atmosphere. He needs to feel the adrenaline. Walk into the ring, and he needs to feel the spirit of victory. So that's what might bring him back, and that's why it's a perfect opponent for the comeback fight. Maybe marketing-wise, it's not the biggest thing to happen, but without small fights, you cannot build a big fight. So I support him in this upcoming fight.
Do you think that's the fight that Tyson Fury wants, or would prefer, the Anthony Joshua fight over the Oleksandr Usyk fight, in your opinion?
Look at his 5-6 fights. Well, Wilder should be considered as one fight because they made 3 in a row. Look at the opponents. Who were them? Remember Otto Wallin?
I remember, I was there.
How many stitches? 65? I don't know.
Lots.
80, 87. He did not expect the guy to come that fit. Probably he didn't train himself. It's like an easy fight. So if you are lazy, if you don't like to work, you still like to earn money, you'll probably choose the easiest way. It's normal for a person, but it looks different when you are thirsty for achieving your goal, for when you're working for something big. That's a different mentality. So Usyk is the one with the big mentality. Tyson is probably with how to say, commercial mentality. These are different things and different approaches. That's why we can't find the solution, because the approaches are different.
There'll be people who watch this who say, well, if it's all about kind of the honour of the sport and the integrity of the sport, take 40%, take 30%, or something like that. And your answer would be?
We were never offered anything like that. We never heard from Tyson what does he really want. So he never came back with saying, let's say, I want 65% because I'm big ticket seller and we have the fight. I never heard that.
Do you need to hear from him before you wrap up the deals? You think that's?
I don't want to hear from him. I want to hear from him only first at the press conference, at the weigh-in, and then at the fight night. I don't need to hear from him anytime.
You send Wladimir to negotiate. Wladimir to negotiate for you?
Wladimir? Klitschko? With Tyson?
Yeah.
Wow.
He can negotiate the Usyk fight for you.
He might probably negotiate his own fight. The second one, which never took place. By the way, it's still like in his mind. He's still thinking about it.
I know. I remember you telling me. That would be an interesting one. Right, Alex, appreciate your time, making
pleasure.
time for me during your very, very busy week of meetings and what have you. Hopefully we get some sort of resolution. I'm still hoping against hope that we get that undisputed title fight. I think it's the fight to make in the heavyweight division and indeed for the whole sport. So hopefully we get to see that soon. If not, it'd be great to have you over here for Usyk versus Dubois. But yeah, thank you very much. Thanks for being the first person in the new studio.
That's a good one.
And I think the next time that you come back over here, it will probably look a little bit more populated. But you have to bring some Usyk merchandise and some K2 stuff for me.
No problem.
Okay.
Some flowers.
Some flowers? You'd have to bring me flowers. But some Usyk stuff would be good. But Alex Krassyuk, thank you very much.
It was my pleasure.
And we look forward to hearing what comes next for Oleksandr Usyk.
That's exactly what I need to find out.